My boss fired me publicly. I bought his company months later. The morning Marcus Reed fired me, he made sure everyone watched. It was a Tuesday. Not a dramatic Tuesday, not a stormy one, just an ordinary, forgettable Tuesday that had no business changing the rest of my life. I had been at Veltro Solutions for 6 years. 6 years of arriving before anyone else, leaving after most had gone home, and quietly building the kind of client, relationships that kept the company's revenue numbers, looking healthy every quarter. I was head of business development. 3 of Veltro's top 5 accounts existed because I had built them from scratch. From cold outreach, from patience, from showing up consistently when it would have been easier not to. Marcus Reed didn't care about any of that. He called me into the main conference room that morning. Not his office, the conference room. Glass walls on 3 sides. Open floor plan visible beyond them. I walked in and found him already seated, HR director beside him, a closed folder on the table between them. Through the glass, I could see 40-something employees at their desks. In the kitchen, walking the floor. Within 30 seconds of me sitting down, half of them had slowed to watch. He didn't waste time. We're restructuring the business development function, Claire. Your role no longer exists. Today will be your last day. No prior conversation. No warning. No can we talk this week? Just a manila folder slid across the table with a severance letter inside. 22 days of pay. 6 years reduced to 22 days. Delivered in a glass box in front of an audience. I want to be clear about something. The firing didn't break me. I have been underestimated enough times in my career that the experience, while unpleasant, was not unfamiliar. What Marcus miscalculated, what he would spend the next several months slowly understanding, was what kind of woman he was doing it to. I sat across from him and kept my face completely still. I read the severance letter slowly, front to back, while he waited. Then I folded it, placed it back in the folder, and looked at him directly. "Is there anything else?" I asked. He blinked. He had expected something, tears, maybe, or anger, or at minimum some visible crack. He got nothing, just a calm woman in a gray blazer asking if the meeting was finished. "No," he said. "That's everything. Thank you," I said. And I meant it, though not in the way he assumed. Marcus had joined Veltro 18 months earlier when founder David Veltro retired. David had built something worth building. Marcus had inherited it and immediately started performing the role of CEO rather than doing the work of one. New logos, reshuffled titles, loud decisions made quickly so people would mistake motion for leadership. I had clashed with him twice. Once over a client proposal he gutted until we lost the deal. Once over a hire he blocked without explanation. Both times I stayed professional. Both times he smiled like a man who was keeping score and assumed he was the only one with a pen. He was wrong about that. I walked out of Veltro Solutions with a banker's box and a security escort to the elevator. My colleague Dana caught my eye as I passed. She mouthed, "I'm sorry." I gave her a small nod and kept walking. The elevator doors closed. I stood alone inside it, watching the floor numbers descend. I wasn't angry. Anger is loud and imprecise, and I had no use for it. What I felt, standing in that elevator, was something much colder and much more useful. I felt patient. The first week I did nothing. Not because I was grieving, and not because I was lost. I did nothing on purpose, because I had spent 6 years moving at other people's pace, and I was finished with that. I woke up at the same time every morning, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, and thought carefully about 3 things. What I actually knew, who actually trusted me, and what Veltro Solutions looked like from the inside versus how Marcus was presenting it to the world. Those 2 pictures were very different. I had seen the real numbers, not the polished investor deck Marcus circulated, the actual operating reports that moved through my desk every quarter because business development touched every revenue line in the company. Veltro's 3 largest clients were sitting on month-to-month contracts. No long-term commitments, no anchor revenue. 2 of those clients had been quietly exploring alternatives for the better part of a year. I knew this because I had been managing those relationships personally, and I had flagged the risk to Marcus on 2 separate occasions. Both times he told me I was being overly cautious. I was not being overly cautious. 3 weeks after leaving, I made a few phone calls. Not aggressive, not transactional, just quiet conversations with people. I had earned real trust with over 6 years. My contact at Halcyon Group, one of Veltro's anchor accounts, told me plainly that they were unhappy with the service since the recent changes in leadership. My contact at Meridian Partners used almost identical language. They had not compared notes. That's just what happens when the same problem touches multiple people at the same time. I wrote everything down. No emotion, no editorial, just facts. Client relationships at risk. Revenue figures softer than the books reflected. Senior staff I knew were quietly circulating their resumes. Marcus had fired the one person who understood his company's real vulnerabilities and handed her a detailed map of them on the way out. I am not sure he ever understood that part. By week 5, I called Daniel Osei. Daniel was a private equity partner. I had met at an industry conference 3 years earlier. We had stayed in touch. Occasional dinners, a referral here and there. He was exactly the kind of person who got interested when someone walked in, with a clear head, real data, and a specific opportunity. I sent him a 2-page summary the night before we met. No emotion, no grievance, just numbers, client risk, market position, and a gap I believed could be exploited. He read it before the coffee arrived. "How confident are you in these client conversations?" he asked. "Confident enough to put my name on it," I said. He nodded slowly. "The way people do when they're already calculating and don't want you to see it yet. Give me 2 weeks," he said. "Let me do some quiet diligence." I gave him 2 weeks. What Daniel found during diligence was worse than even I had projected. Veltro's revenue had dropped 14% over the prior 2 quarters. Marcus had masked it through a one-time licensing deal that wouldn't repeat. The board knew the top-line number. They didn't know what was underneath it. 3 senior employees had resigned in the past. 60 days, 2 of them people I had hired personally. Marcus had been so focused on looking like a CEO that he had forgotten to actually be one. Daniel called me on a Thursday evening. "I think there's a real deal here," he said. "The question is structure. Are you looking to consult, to operate, or to own?" I didn't hesitate for a single second. "Own," I said. The acquisition closed on a Friday morning in November, exactly 4 months and 11 days after Marcus Reed walked me out of the building with a banker's box and a security escort. I remember the exact moment the documents were signed. No celebration, no champagne. Just a conference room in Daniel's office, a stack of papers, and a pen. I signed my name cleanly on every page. When the final signature was done, Daniel's attorney gathered the documents, nodded once and said, "Congratulations, you own Veltro Solutions." I sat with that sentence for a moment. Then I picked up my coffee and took a sip like it was any other morning. Inside, I was anything but calm. The deal structure was straightforward. Daniel's firm provided the capital. I provided the operational knowledge, the client relationships, and a turnaround plan we had spent 6 weeks building together. My equity stake was significant. Enough that this wasn't a job offer, dressed up as an acquisition. This was ownership. Real, legal, documented ownership of the company where I had spent 6 years of my life and been publicly humiliated on a Tuesday. The board had accepted our offer quietly. They were tired. Marcus had burned through goodwill faster than anyone expected, and the numbers had finally told a story even optimistic board members couldn't ignore. Our offer wasn't the highest they could have chased, but it was clean, credible, and came with a clear operational plan. In distressed situations, clean beats high almost every time. Nobody on the board knew who I was until the deal closed. I told Marcus myself. I didn't have to. A letter from the attorneys was all that was legally required. But I had thought about this moment for 4 months, and I wanted to handle it with the same composure he had failed to show me. We met at a coffee shop 2 blocks from the Veltro office. He didn't know the reason for the meeting. I think he assumed I wanted a reference, or perhaps some version of closure. He arrived 5 minutes late, ordered his coffee, and sat down across from me with the easy posture of a man who has never seriously questioned his own position in a room. I slid a single document across the table. The executed acquisition summary, my name on it as majority owner and incoming CEO. He stared at it without speaking for a long time. "This isn't possible," he said. Quiet, genuinely confused, not the reaction of a man performing shock, but of one actually experiencing it. "It closed this morning," I said. "I wanted to tell you directly. I thought you deserved that." He looked up at me. I watched the full timeline assemble itself behind his eyes. The client calls, Daniel's diligence, every quiet move I had made over 4 months. His face did something I won't describe in detail because even then, in that moment, it felt like something that belonged to him privately. "What happens now?" he asked. "To me? Your contract is terminated effective today. The attorneys will handle the separation details." He nodded once, said nothing else. I finished my coffee, thanked him for his time, and walked out into the November air. My first week as CEO, I called every major client personally. No press release, no grand announcement, just direct, honest conversations and a clear commitment to show up differently. Halcyon Group signed a 2-year contract within 10 days. Meridian Partners followed 2 weeks after that. The staff who had stayed through the difficult months were visibly lighter in a way that told me everything about what that period had cost them. I brought Dana back as head of client success. She was the one who had mouthed, "I'm sorry," as I carried my box to the elevator. She accepted before I finished asking. People ask me if I planned it all from the moment the elevator doors closed. The honest answer is no. What I had in that elevator was not a plan. It was patience. And something underneath patience that is harder to name. A complete, total certainty that the story was not finished. The plan came from the patience. The outcome came from the plan. But the beginning of all of it, the real beginning, was a glass-walled conference room. A man who wanted an audience for my humiliation, and 40-something people who watched and said nothing. Marcus fired me to feel powerful. He just never stopped to ask what I would do with the door he opened on his way out.